So, welcome to the Hard Things About IP, and it's my pleasure to have today Dr. Mitja Schonecke, that is working today as a patent attorney within SKF. And I'm super delighted to have him here with us today, where he's going to share his experience and challenges through being an IP leader in a company. But let's jump into it right now. So, to start, could you briefly introduce yourself and who you are, where you are from, and your current role? And also, just out of curiosity, at what age did you become what you are today?
Hey, Dimitris, thank you for having me on the show here. Great opportunity. Actually, starting with your question, I started with 32 in IP after finishing my PhD at the Technical University in Munich. So I'm 52 now, 20 years already. Time has passed. So as you can see, I'm currently living in Bavaria, southern part of Germany. I was growing up in Cologne, completely different part of Germany, different culture, different mindset. But I really feel home now here in Bavaria. My current role, I'm working for SKF, a Swedish bearing producer, as you already said. And currently, I'm the head of the IP department handling mainly automotive and aerospace business of SKF. And as you said already, I'm a German and European patent attorney. The background for me, I studied physics in Cologne and later PhD in Munich. So that makes the thing complete, I would say. Privately, I'm married and have two grown-up daughters that already left the house. So new part of my life also taking place right now.
Interesting. And Mitja, you know, everyone has a different path, I would say, into the intellectual property. What inspired you to pursue a career in IP, and how did your journey begin? You know, was it a particular moment that sparked, you know, your interest, or did you find yourself in IP by chance?
Yeah, probably like everybody else. I think IP career path is not really something which has been established in the 90s while I was studying physics in Cologne. Yeah, indeed, the last millennium. But actually, I had three very good friends from school that were studying law in parallel to me studying physics. And I was witnessing sometimes in private their discussions about the homework cases they were doing in law. And I found it quite interesting in principle. Okay, let's be honest, I found it not too boring. That was my first contact with law as such. And one of these friends actually told me already quite early that the profession of a patent lawyer exists. Before that, I never actually had heard of this profession at all. I had no idea what a patent is at that time. I was just picking up that buzzword, keyword at that point in time. And I forgot that immediately because I was young, I was studying physics, and law was not really something that I had in mind. I was more interested in technology and physics. And it didn't actually return to my mind before I was reading job postings at the end of my PhD in 2003. And I found one from Siemens, and they were looking for IP professional, IP attorney trainees. And yeah, here I am. So exactly as you said, it was just by chance, taking the opportunity, and lucky me, I never regretted it.
Wow, wow. And if we continue on this path, IP is such a dynamic field, and no 2 days are the same. Could you give us a quick rundown on how a typical week looks like for a person like you?
Okay, a quick one. Yeah, from a patent lawyer, seriously? No, it's really my spectacular and really surprisingly exciting work life. Everybody wants to trade the job with me because every day starts with I put on my Superman costume underneath to rescue my company every day. No, no, that was in my dreams. Sorry. Uh, Actually, indeed, I think the in-house attorney or I do not do too much of attorney work actually in my position. I think my week is quite similar and not very different from many other office jobs in a company. Of course, I handle a lot of topics running in parallel, which is not really surprising. And of course, to bring these forward, I need to interact with a lot of people, colleagues from product development, business development, sales, all the different roles in my company. Ending up, I was just counting recently, also to be a little bit prepared. I have about like 30 meetings a week about different topics. Of course, regular meetings with my team, with my peers to bring all these topics forward. Don't I don't mention all the emails that I have to answer and that I get and sort out. And this is, yeah, from time to time challenging, even especially after vacations. So it's yeah, perhaps also surprisingly unspectacular what is actually happening in the daily life. But indeed, the cases are challenging. The the workload is challenging, but it's also for me a passion to do this for my company, to do this for my team and with my team.
This podcast is called The Hard Things About IP for a reason. Because let's be honest, there is not always easy. What are the biggest challenges you face in managing IP at your organization? And if you had to come up with three, what would they be? And have you found any strategies to deal with them?
Oh, big question, big question. Um, I think the biggest challenge is, of course, coming from our dearest competitors because for some reason they are filing patents as well. How dare they? Could it be? Um, I think it's one challenge that is not perhaps at the moment so much a problem for us because we have invested some time in this in the past. The balance between IP protection and business strategy is a typical challenge that I recognize. Um, because you have to align your IP filings with your actual business goals and not having patents because everybody's having them, because they are there, because they are there. You need to do it for a reason. It's about taking decisions. You should not over invest in patents. You should not underprotect your key technology areas. And getting all this in balance inside your company and according to your company's DNA and how your company is working inside is a challenge, especially since this topic is, of course, not so natural for all the other people that are involved in the topic. Because the patent department in a company is not an island that is working as such as a law like a law firm. It has to be really integrated into the business development workflows so that it really can have a good effect, a positive effect for the company. Otherwise, you could simply outsource everything. So I think having this really integrated into the company is a challenge, and companies are well advised to invest into this. And then, of course, you have to establish efficient procedures for this because it's a quite procedural way of working. All the legal procedures in different countries, especially in a global company like SKF, it's quite challenging to have all these legal requirements in the different legislations, countries around the world integrated into your workflows. Unless you have a very small team that is only relying on outside counsel. But if you really want to do significant IP work in-house, you have to deal with it. You have to be efficient because manpower is always a problem. You always have lack of people, and being efficient there is a big driver in IP. Big software, good software to support you is a challenge as well. And if I would take a third thing, perhaps is educating people, creating awareness and make people sensitive in your company for the IP topic. It's perhaps connected to the first thing I mentioned. But to understand who in the company needs which level and details of knowledge about IP so that it works really seamlessly and the error that are or the mistakes that can happen that can also have consequences. can happen. So that's a typical topic to involve the non-IP people into these foreign topic for them. Would perhaps be my top three that I would say.
Interesting, interesting. And I'm wondering how many would say they share this type of, experience as you just described, right? Okay. Going further down this road about IP, from your experience, Mitja, what are the most common mistakes companies make when handling IP? And obviously, this doesn't have to be about your company, but I mean, you have been working in this space for some time.
Mhm.
What have you observed? What do you think that would be?
Yes. If I take the three same cases that I had before and turn it around, if you don't have a clear IP strategy and priority for this topic, because if you only do patents because everybody is doing it, then what is the reason? Why should people do it? Why should they put a priority on it? If they don't understand what the motivation and the reason and the business for the company is, some people will do it and some don't. And for such a strategic topic, this is a pitfall. This is a danger because it has to be done in a similar way according to the business unit's needs, of course, adapted to different areas of your markets, of your business, of the industries that you serve, of course. But I think the lack of a clear strategy and an understanding of the involved people of the benefit of this is one of the greatest pitfalls that I see how a company can fail in individual cases, most probably. And then if we look into the department of the IP, I think it's absolutely crucial that you have well defined and well thought through procedures that actually work because it's a procedural type of working, perhaps more procedural than many other areas of your company. And there, of course, it's also a benefit if you have a robust IP management solution in-house, especially when your company has a certain size of IP and IP department. Working with spreadsheets and manual tracking of deadlines has a high risk of human errors, of course. They will happen, and you need to have reliable procedures to have it. And of course, one very important thing is if you ignore competitor IP, you will be in trouble. You will be in trouble. You really have to develop solid procedures to check competitor patents, to do this perhaps project based and also regular to stay ahead with your competitors or at least on the same level. You need to know what is going on to avoid drawbacks in your business negotiations with your customers because your competitors will utilize their patent. They will bring it in discussions with your joint customer and saying, "Oh, we have the patent. Don't buy from them." And you should be prepared for that. Otherwise, you might lose.
And managing IP efficiently, right? I mean, it becomes more complex as company grows. And maybe what I would like to understand, in your opinion, when is the right time for a company to invest in their own IP management system? Is there a specific milestone that you need to reach as a company? Or is it really depending on, and what would that then be?
Yeah, that's interesting. I have actually not worked in a company where a professional IP management system was not already there. Yeah, Siemens is quite huge, of course, from the operational point of view when it comes to that. Yeah, they have an IP department, which is a company as such. And of course, they have very professional procedures. And SKF is much smaller from that perspective, but have this as well. But I think it depends a little bit on your ambitions in IP, on the development of your business complexity and also your business growth. Because if you're just, of course, a startup which is ramping up and IP is playing a role but is not too big, you cannot overinvest into that. But if you have a significant portfolio size which is growing, when you start to handle procedures also in-house, so if you start to develop an in-house IP team of a significant size, that needs to handle IP procedures with in-house attorneys, time limit tracking, file management, all that stuff. It becomes, I think, rather soon quite painful and also, yeah, error. Um, Errors can happen if you don't have a professional solution in-house. One aspect that I would not forget is also geographical expansion. If you expand your IP team to different countries and different regions of the world, I think an IPMS is even more important to have consistent procedures where people can reliably work together and not in a joint Excel file or self-programmed access database. Last aspect, perhaps from this point of view, is also collaboration needs with people outside the IP department. Not only in-house with inventors, with people from the business, but also with external law firms. Professional solutions provide support for efficient communication with outside counsels, with law firms around the globe. That help a lot. That help a lot. It's expensive, of course, but you benefit a lot from that to provide a reliable backbone of your IP procedures for a company. So I think it's rather soon that companies should consider having an IPMS, and they exist in different sizes, from smaller solutions adapted to smaller companies until solutions that are really big for global enterprises.
One of the hard things about IP is also staying ahead of competition, and you touched upon it a little bit earlier, right? And my question is, how can companies benefit from monitoring, competitor patents first, and then secondly would be like in your organization, if you do so, how does that influence your strategy, and do you adapt constantly to what comes in?
Yes, yes. That's a very important topic. And I think you, in principle, have two ways of dealing with competitive patents. As I said before, you can ignore them and then you solve the cases when they come along. Or you can try to stay in the front, to stay ahead of your competitors by investing into that. But it's an investment, not only in money for having the software and the procedures in place, but mainly in time of the people. And I think in many companies, also in ours, it's a joint procedure between people from the business, from the development department, and IP, because then you need the expertise of both. What is going on in the development, in the sales, and the IP expertise as well. We do this very regularly, and we see a very big benefit from doing that. And people also see the benefit. They also see the amount of work they have to do because companies file a lot of patents. And I think in other industries, it's probably even more. Yeah. And it's, it of course has the one aspect that is typically coming to your mind immediately, which is saying, okay, we have to mitigate business risk, which is coming from patents. If we know the patents up front, we can, of course, in an FDO project for a new development, hopefully develop around the risk that we identify. Or we could immediately analyze and assess risks that we see before the product is reaching the market. But it's also building a knowledge of technology that is out there. So it's beyond the pure claims that a patent is, of course, having. It's also a technical intelligence, competitive intelligence that you can derive from the patents. You see what your competitors are developing, and it could inspire you. It could bring you to new ideas for your developments and force you to develop new thoughts, other ideas. And I think there we come to the really core of what the patent system was trying to do. Publishing things to bring technology further. And in return, you get the exclusivity for 20 years at the most. Perhaps one additional aspect is when you monitor patents, and if you identify patents that are a challenge or a potential challenge to your business, or even if you avoid entering into a business because there is a patent that you could not surround, you can monitor when they expire and when the business is free again. And of course, most of the patents don't last for the 20 years and expire earlier. because they are going abandoned.
Studies, including EPO's annual reports, shows that companies with strong IP strategies tends to outperform those without. Do you think now, and this is obviously your own opinion, right? But do you think your own company would be less successful without an IP strategy in place?
Of course, much less. I have to say that. No, I think it's seriously, it's important to understand, in my opinion, that IP patents is a business tool. It's a business tool. You can utilize this for your business. Beyond the pure protection and suing competitors for infringement, you can utilize this smart in business negotiations with your clients. Yeah, it has an influence. Perhaps not in every and single case. You have to find the right balance. Yeah, it's connected to taking good decisions. Success comes from good decisions and right decisions. And of course, you can file patents because, yes, everybody's filing patents, so we have to do it as well. But if you do this for a reason, then you can increase your success. Only with patents, unless you are a licensing company or a patent troll, it's not enough. It has to be an integral part of your business strategy. And one important aspect, in my opinion, is that it's, of course, not enough to have a strategy, because every company has a strategy. A business strategy, whatever, technology strategy, an IP strategy. Most companies have it. Highly sophisticated, it's all promising. And how many strategies have never been really put in practice? Because you define it and the new CEO releases the new strategy, and then how is it put in practice? You really have to do that. How do you measure how well it works? Yeah, making plans is the simple part. Executing them is perhaps where not everybody is so excellent. And it's perhaps also not homogeneous over a company with a lot of business. In some it works better, in some you have to do some more work to bring it to praxis.
The word has also evolved rapidly, especially with digital transformation and AI, specifically AI in our space. How have you seen the role of IP change in the recent years, and what trends and shifts have stood out the most for you with this digital transformation?
Oh yes, the digital transformation. We use steel to produce goods out of steel. So AI is naturally nothing which is in our core products so far. But our working environment, of course, is rapidly changing. Fully agreed. And in IP, I think it has several aspects what it is changing. And the one aspect is that it is, of course, challenging the traditional IP frameworks, because it contributes to the creation of inventions. And that's, of course, already the legal side of is how can AI based or supported inventions be legally supported somehow, because it's unclear, can they be inventors, and if yes, not, and whatsoever. That's all open, and of course it's worked on, but it has to be clear how to protect these kind. And of course, it's also, when you say AI as a technology, how is this protectable as a new form of software patents, kind of? Since it has such a business benefit, I think it's also important to provide protection to that. The traditional software is not patentable, does not work today anymore, and it is adapted. You need also, perhaps beyond patents, strong trade secret, copyright, and database rights somehow to make this really protect the value for the companies. I think that's important. And then there is the other part where you utilize AI in your daily work as a tool. And this is, of course, very important, because IP, patents especially, is mainly about language at the end. Yeah, you take a technology, an invention, and transform it into language. Okay, many inventors and other people would say, you consider this being language, really? And AI can perhaps assist to help people to understand this easier, to create this easier. And that's a big challenge, because it's a special language. it's a special way of doing things, and it's quite different in different languages and legislations how you write, how you use language to describe the invention. um, US and Germany, completely different way of writing claims. And if AI could help us to understand this better, to write better and more efficient, it's a good tool. It's a good tool. And perhaps as a last point, if you have a protection for your AI-based invention or AI as an invention as such, how to enforce? How do you recognize in another AI model that there is an infringement of your right? How do you prevent infringement? How can you protect your asset here? I think that is a challenge to do. And of course, this goes hand in hand with software protection as such. Quite challenging.
We started this conversation with me about how you became what you are today, right? And if I may now change it the other way around, if we were supposed to inspire the new generation to consider IP as a career path, and if you could impact that, how would you design it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because it's interesting because it brings two worlds together: the technology world and the legal world, the abstract world. And I think this connection is not clear to many people. And I think in many university courses and studies that could lead to this, like for physics, I never had any contact point in my university career with IP, not at all. And I think creating knowledge, so an early exposure in education and training of people, making them aware that this profession exists and what it means and how important it actually is. That could be the first milestone in making people aware. So creating awareness about IP, basic concepts that sound quite artificial at the concept of novelty and inventive step first looked very artificial to me, and of course it is. But after a while, you really understand what it means and why it is there. And I think as a second point is that the career path is not so clear to the people what it means, especially perhaps the differences between legal professionals and patent inside companies, and of course the other if you work for a law firm. It's a different way of working. It's a different mindset that you develop depending on your education. I recognize this when I have when you hire a person who was educated in a law firm compared to a person that is educated in a global enterprise, in a company. The basic mindset about IP is completely different. Company people already have the idea of the business involvement, the business mindset, and so on. While I experienced, without having a big statistics, to be honest, that lawyers educated in a law firm are having this mindset of novelty and inventive step and legal stability. They have more the legal side of it. And bringing this together, and both are needed, is quite a challenge. And to clarify that out, that could be an interesting task. How to bring this together. And also, if you start, for example, in the industry as an engineer or something, companies could also provide a career path in-house, especially bigger enterprises like SKF or Siemens, just from my career examples, to develop people, to offer that as a career path. I have not seen that, to be honest. Yeah, you start as a trainee for IP, yeah, but it's not really to, yeah, develop your engineers and to offer that as a clear career path. As we said at the beginning, people are stumbling into that exactly as I did, usually.
I don't think it's only you. I
It's
also
only
had
me.
it's also me, you know.
I know.
No, it's a very interesting, I think, topic we touch upon, and I think we can do a lot of things to make it as a career path. And we will see a lot of things hopefully in the near future. Good. Let's end on a lighter note. Intellectual property, isn't always on the center in movies and TV. But it does show up in interesting ways. Can you think of a film or a series where IP have played an important role? Or maybe one that offers an interesting take on innovation and patents?
Yes, I remember one movie. How was that called? Flash of Genius, I think. It's from 2005, 6, 7, 8, something like that. And it was about the inventor of the intermittent windshield wiper. I think that was back in the 50s or 60s. Today, a function that every car has, but at that point in time, a new invention. And it shows how this person was patenting. Yeah, he was patenting his invention. He was trying to offer it to, I don't know which US car company. They refused, but then they implemented it later. And he started a battle which took, in my memory, decades against these car companies that were infringing his patent. And I think he was refusing all offers to settle because he wanted the recognition from the companies that it was his invention legally. I think he won finally. I'm not sure. It's quite some time that I saw the movie, but it was interesting. And I think it was a tragic man because he was so dedicated to this legal fight that, at least in the movie, perhaps this is fiction, I don't know, that he was a broken man later because he sacrificed his private life, his marriage, private life, quite a lot for this long-taking fight. But that could be fiction, In these kind of movies, they mix reality with a little bit of drama sometimes to make it a movie. But that is definitely something that I recommend, and patents play a very central role in that movie.
Dr. Mitja Schonecke, it has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences on the hard things about IP. It has been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
My pleasure.
So that's it for today's episode of the hard things about IP. If you have enjoyed this discussion, feel free to subscribe for more conversations with IP professionals. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.